Guys, I want to tell you about our friends over at Frost Buddy. It is drinkware engineered to keep your beverages exactly how you want them. Whether you're heading out for an adventure or just powering through your day, Frost Buddy's flagship product, the Universal Buddy, replaces the need for multiple can coolers by fitting virtually every 12-ounce and 16-ounce can bottle you drink, sodas and seltzers to coffee and sparkling water, all in a single versatile design. Constructed with high quality double walled stainless steel and thoughtful features like a flexible silicone lid and a tapered shape that fits most cup holders, Frostbuddy keeps drinks cold for 12 hours and hot for up to 6 hours. So you get consistent temperature control, whether it's an iced drink on a hot afternoon or a hot coffee on the drive to work. Built to last, field tested for durability, and backed by a 30-day return policy, Frostbuddy makes everyday moments from tailgates and beach days to backyard cookouts and commutes more enjoyable. Going over and click the link below and use promo code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase when you visit our friends over at frostbuddy.com. And when you use that promo code SSS15. Are you tired of spending upwards of $7 to $8 on coffees that are full of sugar and high in fat? Well, look no further than Chike Nutrition, the brand redefining what coffee can do for your day. Chike Nutrition combines the rich, familiar taste of real coffee with 20 grams of high-quality protein and the energy of 2 shots of espresso, giving you both fuel and function in every scoop. Available in a variety of crave-worthy flavors like mocha, caramel, vanilla, and many more, Chike delivers smooth, cafe-style iced coffee that mixes instantly with water or your favorite milk, with no clunky blender or complicated prep needed. Each serving is designed to be low in sugar, packed with protein, and loaded with real espresso, so that you can get a sustained energy that helps power your morning, workout, or busy afternoon without the crash that comes from sugary coffee drinks. Whether you're looking for better nutrition in your coffee routine or a smarter way to stay energized and full longer, Chike makes it simple. Scoop, shake, sip, and enjoy. If you want to take advantage of the new year and get in the best shape of your life, click the link below and get yourself 10% off of your first order over at ChikeNutrition.com. Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen. We are live once again. And for those of you that are obviously new to the show, you know about how I have been very vocal the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months, however long it has been. I mean, good Lord, we've been doing this show for about, well, really kind of brought the show back, I believe, in November of this past season. So we are approaching once again my third full season of covering college football. I have enjoyed the ever-loving hell out of this sport. Let me think. 23, 24, 25. We're approaching our fourth season of covering college football, actually, which I think is remarkable. Been doing this since I was 19 years old. And I have enjoyed every single minute of it. Guys, for those of you that have been following me since day one, thank you, thank you, thank you for your continued support, for the love, and for everything that you guys have done just to be able to support me and support the movement that we are creating with this show that we do on a very, very common basis. But guys, once again, welcome on into the Southern sports scene. I'm your host, as always, Lucas Hill. Make sure you all do us a favor. Y'all hit that like, share, and subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell notifications so that you are notified every time we go live. We post a new video or we post a new short on the Southern sports scene. Guys, every live show is brought to you by our good friends over at Frost Buddy. Going over frostbuddy.com. Use that promo code SSS15. and get yourself 10% off of your first purchase. We also want to thank our friends at Chike Nutrition. 20 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat, 1 gram of sugar, and every healthy, hearty cup of Chike Nutrition iced coffee products. Make sure you go on over chikenutrition.com and click the link below to get 10% off. We also want to thank our friends over at Buzzer. Make sure you head on over to the Buzzer app today and get yourself potentially verified to be a content creator. Maybe some more action could be coming in the next couple of weeks. But again, head on over to our friends over at Buzzer and let's get rocking and rolling with this show. All right, before we go on any further, 2 things. I want to make 2 announcements really fast, and these are huge, huge announcements. Number 1 is that last week when we did our call-ins, when we had people call into the show, guys, you know how much I appreciate whenever you guys call into the show. You bring your enthusiasm, you bring your comments, you bring your concerns to me, and I do the best I can to answer those questions. However, I do want to kind of change some stuff up because usually I am very relaxed. This time, I want to be as clear as I can. This time around, we're going to kind of change it up. One at a time, every live show that we do, I'm just going to have, if you want to call in, you're more than welcome to. We're going to go 10 minutes for each caller. We're also going to do, what do you call it? You are also going to be on stage one at a time. So every time I look at StreamYard and I see somebody walks into the studio, all right, I'm going to bring them up. And that's when we will have conversation. I don't mind you guys, if you want to call in. I really don't. I just think last week was very hectic. I appreciate, look, I'm not saying that it was a bad thing, but I'm also just saying like, hey, let's kind of corral it in a little bit and let's kind of get back to what we were, what we are normally doing and kind of provide a little bit of stability. But I mean, apart from that, guys, you guys are good. 10 minutes. So again, first one, 10 minutes each, and we're going just one person that's going to be calling in at a time. Number 2, we are going to have a new scheduling format. Lucas Hill and the Southern sports scene, we will be going 3 days a week, starting 2 weeks from now when week 1 is approaching, or starting next week. When we approach week 0, we're going to do a complete week 0. We're going to be slam freaking busy. You better be ready for it. We're going to have preview after preview after preview after preview of every week 0 game. I guarantee you, we're going to do this. We're going to do this together. And by the way, you better get ready. We're going to next week when college football comes back. Oh, you better believe the fun we are going to have, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, August 22nd, or wait. When is college football season? I think it starts not next week, but the week after. But August 29th, when week 0 comes around, oh my goodness. Because I think next week starts the FCS football season. I believe, yeah. So Maine and Towson, Mercyhurst, Youngstown State, Stony Brook, Delaware State, Charleston, Southern, Lindenwood, Chattanooga, West Georgia, Ohio, Dominican, and Morehead State are going to play. Let's see what else comes from that. But I do believe that officially the college football schedule is going to start in August 29th. So we'll do all the Power 4 previews during around that time. And we'll do some G6 previews as well throughout week 0. I'm telling you, every week 0 game, we're going to preview it. From the Dublin game, which kicks off the college football season, I really do want to look at these week 0 games because, guys, we're going to have a really, really fun week 0. I really believe that we're going to have probably the best week 0 that we have ever had, ever since week 0 really became a thing, which I think was, 10 years ago or something like that? But you're talking North Carolina TCU, Virginia and North Carolina State, Jacksonville State at North Dakota State. What a game that should be. You got Hawaii and Stanford on the West Coast. You got UNLV in Memphis. Guys, we are looking at some really, really, really good things. And by the way, after that, let's go look at what Thursday brings. We got Colorado at Georgia Tech. We get an early preview of what UMass could look like. Can they finally win a game? How are they going to be against Rutgers? I think they're still going to be horrible, but I mean, it's UMass. So who knows what happens in there. But the SEC will kick off next week. The Big Ten starts 2 Saturdays from now. And I believe that is just about it. ACC kicks off with, obviously, North Carolina, Big 12. All right, Big 12 plays. We have one SEC team playing on that Thursday, which I find it weird because it's always Missouri. I feel like every single freaking week 0 game. So you have all that. And then that Friday, when we get to week 0, okay, here's an interesting line. Upset alert if you want to make some money. Toledo at Michigan State. Friday, September 4th. Give me Mike Jacobs and the Toledo Rockets to cover in this football game. I think Mike Jacobs is a phenomenal head coach. I know you obviously have to consider who you have to replace in a guy like Jason Candle, who is now at UConn. But look, Mike Jacobs came in from Mercer and made that team a winner. Mike Jacobs was a phenomenal head coach whenever he was at Mercer. Go look at what he did coming in from a program like that. You transition to where he is right now at Toledo. He has the pieces in place to win immediately there and continue to take the reins that Jason Campbell left behind. Guys, it wasn't that long ago. I was talking about Toledo being a G6 contender for a college football playoff. I really believe that for a very, very strong moment in time. The MAC is going to be very strong this year. Make no mistake about that. I think Miami of Ohio. I think when you look at potentially what Ohio could bring, but obviously you got to go through Western Michigan. So who knows what's going to happen when you get to there. MACtion is going to be lit every single week. So we're going to have a really, really solid season this year. Looking at some other games on this schedule. Fresno State and USC intrigues me a lot. USC is a 22.5-point favorite in that one. I might have Fresno State a little bit on the upset. I think they have an opportunity to cover. Miami at Stanford. I think Miami kind of runs away with that one, in my opinion. Look at the amount of opening weekend in conference play that we have going on. North Carolina State at Virginia in the ACC play to open week 0. Not necessarily, but in really some key early games in this year. TCU and North Carolina. I think TCU should be a higher favorite over North Carolina, other than 4.5 right now. I think it's or 7.5. I think that TCU, in my opinion, should be a double-digit favorite going into that game. I think that they're too loaded from the offensive side of the ball to be a 7.5-point favorite against a North Carolina team that's clearly in decline right now and really should not have even come close to hiring a guy like Bill Belichick, who has not even been close to being the prototypical college football head coach. But no, Friday should be good, and then you get to the Saturday slate, and it is going to be amazing there. Got some great games going on. UConn only an 18.5-point favorite over Lafayette kind of intrigues me. Bowling Green, 2.5-point favorite over Tarleton State. But listen, Tarleton State has a very good roster returning. You're talking about a roster that, from an offensive standpoint, took over the UAC this past year. I would not be surprised if they are in talks of potentially moving up to the FBS level very soon. And I think it starts with a big win on the road. Could you potentially see that? Who knows? Liberty and James Madison is going to be key early on in the group of 6. That's another massive group of 6 matchup in this football game. Looking at the rest of the lines for week 0/week 1. Temple only a 10-point favorite against Rhode Island. They're coming off of a strong 5-7 season. And you're looking at me and you're saying Temple went 5-7 this past year. How in the hell could you possibly say that this is a team that's going to be in revert? That's going to be better this year. Guys, Casey Keeler, you never want to underestimate. Casey Keeler is a proven winner everywhere that he's gone. He won a national championship at Sam Houston when they were at the FCS level. The very next year, transitions to the FBS level. They know how to win. Casey Keeler did a really good job of doing that. Went to Delaware, won a Division 1A, 1AA national championship with him and Joe Flacco. I think Joe Flacco was there. Yeah, they were there with Joe Flacco. Or they went to a Division 1AA championship. Wins a national title with Sam Houston, like I mentioned. Transitions to the CUSA, goes from 3-9 their first year in Division 1 FBS play. They're a 9-3 team, and then he goes to take the head coaching job at Temple. I think this is a bowl-eligible team. This is obviously going to be a very difficult schedule. You're going to lose some key guys. Evan Simon is no longer there, which is going to hurt you. You think, but you obviously have to think about who you return as a whole. From a defensive perspective, I think they will be strong. I thought Brian Smith had an overall decent year this past year, but those late game stretches, man, really hurt you. East Carolina's offense was elite, gave up 45 to them. Tulane, amazing offense, gave up big plays down the field. North Texas had a phenomenal offense. The American is going to take a step back this year from an offensive perspective because of the amount of coaches that went on to take Power 4 jobs this upcoming season. So if I am Temple, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, man, this is a great opportunity for us to cash in, potentially take control of a conference that is obviously going to be seeing them take a step back. Those first 3 games are going to be pretty intriguing. Rhode Island at home, I think you should win by double digits in there. I think you should cover pretty easily. Then you go on the road to Toledo. You host Penn State for some reason, which I think is weird. And then you get to a really difficult part of your schedule where you play Army. You have to go to Annapolis and play Navy. You go to Memphis. But you get home games against Rice, UAB, UConn, which I think will be an interesting one. And then you get Charlotte. I think those 4 games are going to be wins for you. A win against Rhode Island will be number 5. And now I look at the rest of the schedule. At Toledo is a toss-up. Army is a toss-up. At South Florida with Brian Hartline as your head coach is a toss-up. Who knows what happens with Blake Harrell and East Carolina. And then obviously going to Memphis. Those are massive games that you have to take advantage of early on in the year. And those are games that you have to come out with victories. If you can win at least one of them, you're going to be bowl eligible. I really believe that this is a great Temple team that is going to improve significantly. This isn't as heavy as an offensive heavy team as we saw from this past year. It's obviously going to take a step back this year for the American, but I still expect that Temple team to be an intriguing team to look out for early on in the year. Auburn 7-point favorite against Baylor. We'll see with year 1 with DJ Lagway at the helm for the Bears, and let's see what happens with Auburn, who's entering their first year with Alex Golish as their head coach. Cincinnati at Boston. Cincinnati hosting Boston College, an interesting game there. Cincinnati is 7.5-point favorite over a Boston College team that I think is just going to be the worst team in the ACC. They're going to be really, really bad this year. I think Bill O'Brien's last year is going to start on September the 5th. It's obviously going to happen. Duke, a 9.5-point favorite over Tulane for week 1. This is interesting to me because I think both teams are going to take a step back. I still think Duke wins. but it's not as convincingly as you'd expect. However, I still like Walker Eggett. I think he has a strong arm. I think he's a very experienced quarterback at that level. I think he had a strong start this past year, despite going 3-8. You saw improvements. He's got to be more mobile. I think he has to be. We've seen him put up some really good numbers while he was at Oregon or while he was at San Jose State. I think he goes into this Jonathan Brewer offense and really shines. I really believe he's still a phenomenal quarterback. I think he's got a lot of upside to him at the end of the day. Oregon, 24.5-point favorite going to Boise State. Really Boise State going to them. It's an interesting football game because Oregon, obvious national championship favorite, but people are looking at this and saying, man, the line is very high for you're talking about a team like Boise State that it wasn't but 2 years ago. Ashton Jeanty was the big reason why they were in that football game for a good bit of the time. But you feel like, man, a bit underrated, don't you think? I don't think so because, look, as much as I love Maddox Madsen and what he's done for that offense and how he's obviously had to take over for him, this Oregon team is just too good. This is probably the best defense in college football. I think you have first-round talent all across the board. I think Oregon wins this one easily, especially with how Dante Moore should come out the gate swinging. He has a point to prove. Let's just be honest with you. Penn State with Marshall coming into Happy Valley. Look, love Marshall. Wrote a piece on Marshall earlier this year about their quarterback history and how they've had such a strong quarterback class. I have Marshall going to the Sun Belt Championship this season. I know a lot of people disagree because of, they're still skeptical about the defensive side of the ball. But I think new defensive coordinator Brad Lambert is going to bring a different attitude to this defense. He's been in this position before. He was the defensive coordinator at Wake Forest, longtime head coach while he was at Charlotte, longtime defensive coordinator while he was at Wake Forest. He's been there multiple different stints with the Demon Deacons and such. So he's really good, man. I really have a lot of respect for Brad Lambert. Last year with Shannon Morrison as your DC, there was obviously some aggravation, some frustration at times with how the defense played, especially in kind of the middle part of the year. You had really bad performances where when you went to overtime, had moments to kind of win football games, but just couldn't pull it out. When you go to late Louisiana and you lose in double overtime, you give up big plays late. The same thing happened when you went to Coastal. I mean, and even James Madison, man, you've got to be able to capitalize off of those opportunities that are presented towards you. But man, I mean, let's see what Tony Gibson's second year looks like. I think Marshall still is going to be a solid team. They're picked third right now in the East Division behind JMU and Old Dominion. Guys, I really do believe this team should be higher than both of them. I don't know what JMU is going to look like in 2026 under year one of Billy Napier. Love Ricky Rain and what he did at Old Dominion, but man, Carlos Del Rio Wilson is a big reason why Marshall is going to be the team that they are. 2,000 yards passing, 66% completion percentage, and the prototypical dual threat quarterback. The fact that Marshall didn't get a single first place vote in the East Division, and you have teams like Georgia Southern, who I love the guys they brought out to media days. Josh Dallas is one of my favorite football players now after listening to him at Sunbelt Media Days. Absolutely a joy to watch him and listen to him just speak about his team and speak about what it's like playing for GSU and for Coach Helton. even Coastal Carolina with their first year under Ryan Beard, man, it was just it was just such a odd voting. And I was really, really shocked to see the coaches poll kind of give Georgia Southern and Coastal a first place vote over teams like Marshall. But this is going to be a tight East Division. I think this might be one of the tightest that we've seen in a while. The Sun Belt is going to be really, really fun this year to watch. Looking at some other teams we have. Oklahoma State going to Tulsa, Oklahoma at Chapman. They're a 14-point favorite. I get it that it's on the road. But here's the thing about Oklahoma State. They have a lot of offensive firepower. Now, am I a huge, huge fan of who they brought along as their offensive, or not their offensive coordinator, their defensive coordinator, Skylar Cassidy? No, I'm not a fan whatsoever. I think Skylar Cassidy has done some good things. But, I mean, even dating back to when he was Sam Houston's defensive coordinator, when you see teams like that, got the fried AKC in here who he was frying. I knew, speaking of which, AKC, hey, listen, I knew that I was going to get a response from you as soon as the Hilltopper podcast boys retweeted my group of 6 championship predictions. I knew I was going to hear from you. I just knew I had a feeling. He just said, Jack State fans have entered the chat. I freaking knew it. I had a feeling that I was going to hear from you, and I was trying to look for you. I was like, man, you better go easy on me because you know better. You're a listener. You know who I am. But, yes, I do have – who do I have in the CUSA? Oh, I know who I have in the CUSA. I have Western Kentucky and I think – did I say Liberty? I think I said Liberty. Damn, it's been a while since I did it. Let me see what I did. Yeah, I did Western Kentucky and Liberty for the CUSA title, and Topper Talk, that's who it was. Topper Talk podcast retweeted it, and man, I got some views on this. I swear the G6 must love me, man, because I get a lot of love from them. So, got nothing but love for the G6. But again, but going back to Tulsa, I know that they have arguably one of the more intriguing rosters this upcoming season, coming off a year where they just were really bad in the CUSA, or not in the CUSA, in the American Conference. But they made changes. You bring back some really, really solid pieces. I think you revamped yourself offensively. You fire Brad Roberts. You bring in a guy like Kevin Barbay, who's been around the game for a while. Young guy. He's been a Texas kid most of his life. Interesting stints from here and there. Was Stephen F. Austin's offensive coordinator for a while, then went to Central Michigan. Appalachian State was Mississippi State's offensive coordinator in 2023 when Zach Arnett was there for the one season. Gets hired over at Houston as the OC as well. And now he's back as a college coordinator with Tulsa. So he will be the co-OC along with Ty Darlington. I think Kevin Barbay is going to be the primary play caller. Ty Darlington is going to be primarily focused on the tight ends and the offensive line. I think they'll be signaling in different blocking schemes, like, hey, choke, or pin pull, whatever it is. So you'll see a lot of that. Man, Tulsa's just interesting to me. And let me see if I can bring up my guy Garrett Armbrust's Substack, because he did a really, really good job with his preview on this one. Baylor Hayes, is he the sleeper quarterback in the American? This is a good question because you saw a lot of good and bad from Baylor Hayes in 2026 and 2025. I think there were games where he really displayed his arm talent. Then you also look at games where he struggled. You look at FAU, and I hope Shula's watching because he can help me attest on this. You just saw him try to win games with his arm when obviously he couldn't. He got sacked 5 times and threw 2 picks in that FAU game. But you saw in the month of November, after that game, I think he was a lot more consistent. I think he was much better throwing the football at times, especially in the 2 games. You beat Army on the road in Annapolis. You beat an Oregon State team that obviously had some solid pieces. And I think a lot of people like Army this year. They have them winning the American Conference. This was a Army team that went to the Fenway Bowl. They were the favorites going into this one, but I thought UConn was going to come in and beat them up a little bit. I thought they were more physical from an offensive standpoint, and boy, was I proven wrong. They ran the freaking football with authority. God's Power and Nawahue just absolutely dominated that entire game. 12 carries for 171. That was a phenomenal game by them. But anyways, just going back to them, Baylor Hayes has to get better, staying in the pocket. I think offensive line is going to improve at times. I think you had some close games early on in the season that you should have had. I think opening game against New Mexico State kind of really set the tone for what the season was going to look like. Baylor Hayes is still young too. Elijah Green is one of the shutdown corners in college football. I think he is just going to turn himself into a top 50 draft pick this upcoming season. I'm excited to see him if he gets the Senior Bowl invite this year. Elijah Green is such a phenomenal defensive back entering his junior season. He's going to be very difficult to stop. And I really, really think that there's something really intriguing when you talk about Tulsa. It really is. And Barbe has had some really good things happen to him. But you also have to remember, you're talking about an Oklahoma State team that revamped from the offensive side of the ball as well. And they should be just as good as what we saw from Tulsa from the transfer portal as well. So I would have Oklahoma State a bigger favorite in that one. I think they take care of business against Trey Lamb and company. Let me look at some other lines before we move on with our show for the rest of week 1. Clemson and LSU. LSU a 9.5-point favorite in that one. I think that's pretty interesting. Here's an interesting line. And I have to talk about my alum now. Southeastern Louisiana at South Alabama. Is South Alabama catching a little bit of disrespect this year? Possibly. I know that this was a team that struggled with injuries this past season. This is a team that has to get better and more consistent from up front. Major Applewhite has a lot of things that he has to fix as a whole. You hire Tyler Orlando, who has a lot of experience as a defensive play caller. Bishop Davenport, what is he going to look like for his final year of eligibility? He's been the unheralded. You got to remember, he was the successor to Gio Lopez, who's now at Wake Forest, I believe. Although I could be wrong. Yeah, he's now at Wake Forest. Bishop Davenport took his place, and I thought he played really efficiently. I think the biggest thing that he struggles with, though, is his passing. which he has got to get better at. He's got to be more consistent from a efficiency standpoint, from him setting his feet, knowing when to leave the pocket. I think that game early on is going to tell us a lot about what South Alabama looks like. Southeastern Louisiana, man, they lost a lot from a defensive standpoint. I know personally. You lose a fourth-round draft pick in Caleb Proctor. You do have some guys that you got through the portal that I think is going to help you significantly. You return a guy like Khalid Moore, who was at Southern Miss, was at Mississippi State. Lot of great things that you saw from him this past year. I thought he shined early on at points in the season. You look at some other guys that you got throughout this past season. I think linebacking-wise, this is a team that's going to be really good. Jake Dalmato, who was one of the Sun Belt or one of the Southland Conference's best linebackers, is now in Hammond, Louisiana. He is going to make an immediate impact with that team. Jariah Johnson to go along with Jordan Okoye. Those three linebackers are going to be really, really good this year. I think that you're talking about one of the best linebacking tandems in the conference, and I think a team that's going to really make some noise this year. I'd have South Alabama still pulling away with a victory, but look, this offense is still going to light up the scoreboard. I think Bishop Davenport is going to be back to what he was at the beginning of the year, and I think that we're going to see a South Alabama team that's going to continue to dominate at the end of the year. Looking at some more lines around college football. Northwestern at South Dakota State. I'm intrigued to see that football game. I mean, from my perspective, I think there's a lot of people that are high on Northwestern. You brought in Chip Kelly as your primary play caller now. Northwestern has done really well in years past. I think that this team is still going to succeed. I think this team has exceeded all expectations of what they were supposed to do when you brought in a guy like David Braun to be your primary head coach, who got promoted in 2023. He's played against South Dakota State before, so he understands the significance of this team. Is South Dakota State on another run for a championship this year in the FCS? They seem like they are the early favorite to do so. Lamar at Louisiana, I think, is interesting. UL just an 18.5-point favorite in that one. I think UL covers, though. Should not be much of a problem. UNLV at Hawaii, early big statement game in the G6, another massive game to expect from them. We'll kind of wrap it up here and kind of flow with it. But I want to mention this game specifically because of the impact that this could have. UCLA at California. I don't know what that was. UCLA at California is going to be the game of week one, in my opinion. And I think it's a game that not a whole lot of people are paying attention to at the moment, because you're talking about two teams that I think are going to exceed expectations for 2026. And we'll get into our exceeding expectation. We'll get into kind of a little preview on both teams and what I think they're going to do to exceed those expectations of what people may project them to have or project them to be in 2026. UCLA has done a really phenomenal job of building around what Bob Chesney is bringing to Westwood. UCLA has had the last 2 years under Deshaun Foster. This is where this offense ranks. 2024, this was one of the worst offenses in college football. I mean, this was an abysmal offense that had no rhyme or reason of being on the same field as some of the teams that we see this year. This team had no identity. This team was an absolute train wreck. And to be quite honest with you, this team had had this team was so bad. This team was a freaking disaster at times. They were 126 in total offense this past season. In 2024, I think they were close to being dead last, or they were dead last. They were 126 in 2024 and 2025 in total offense this past year. I think if they get into a top 50 offense, which is a massive jump when you're talking about 70 spaces, which I think they can be, I think Dean Kennedy has done a great job of building quarterbacks, of coaching quarterbacks, of helping them reach their next level, which I think they will get to their next level. What he's going to do with Nico Iamaleava is going to blow people's minds. Nico Iamaleava is going to take a massive step forward this year because I trust Dean Kennedy. He is the best play caller and the best quarterbacks coach that he has had since he was at Tennessee. He is going to regain the confidence that he had back when he got his first start in the bowl game. You haven't really seen Nico Iamaleava have that same confidence level that he had approaching a game just yet. Part of it is because of the distractions that have gone on around him. You go back to 2024 and you had the end of season distractions with his dad and the NIL situation, which led to him leaving Knoxville. You go to a year later in the season where UCLA is performing horribly, Deshaun Foster gets fired, and all of a sudden, he starts playing really good football at times. You start seeing the Nico Iamaleava that we saw in the bowl game, but it wasn't consistent. You have to find an even ground with him. He has the pieces around him to succeed. Wayne Knight, who comes from James Madison, 1,000-yard back, phenomenal player. Think could play on Sundays. The difference that Wayne Knight makes is night and day. UCLA has not had a good running game in a very long time. Wayne Knight might be the reason why UCLA's run game will rank among the top 50 in college football. There might be the reason why their offense as a whole will rank among the top 50 in college football. You brought in some great talent from the portal. We talk about guys like Rico Flores, who was a Division I guy at Virginia. Or no, not Rico Flores. You look at guys that they went out and they got through the portal. You better believe they're going to have more talent than anybody can really handle right now in the Big Ten. They're going to be much better than what we think. Samaj Morgan, who I thought was a phenomenal slot receiver at Michigan whenever he was coming out of high school. He's a guy that is yet to really kind of get some significant playing time. He's been more of a return specialist, but I do believe that he is going to get more touches, not just as a return guy, which they obviously want to use him and utilize him for. But I also think that they want to get him involved more in the pass game. He had 20 catches for 223 this past year. I think that number doubles for him and increases to a potentially 400 or 500-yard season. And you may be thinking that's not a very big increase, but when you're talking about a Dean Kennedy offense that is more of an RPO base that's going to rely on a quarterback run, I think this is the offense that Samaj Morgan fits best in. It's the offense that obviously Wayne Knight is going to fit best in. You brought in Brian Rowe Jr., who is a young freshman at South Carolina that got a lot of playing time this past year. Rowe has a huge upside to him. Big-bodied receiver, quick down the field, vertical threat is going to be a mismatch for anyone in the Big Ten. You look at where they are. Sahir West is going to be a first-round talent in 2 years. Sahir West brings that speed off the edge that you love to see. Sahir West is a phenomenal football player, man. he is going to be a game wrecker. And you look at the film of him, go look at the Oregon game. Go look at how much of a freaking backfield wrecker that he was. Look at how often he was in the backfield. How Dante Moore had to get flushed out of a pocket, had to scramble out to the opposite side so that he doesn't come around backside or front side and probably strips the football from him or gets a sack. He only recorded one tackle in that football game, but how many pressures did he have? That's what mattered to me. How many times did he get back in the backfield? How many times was he a disruptor throughout that game? I watched the game. He was there a lot. UCLA fans are going to be in for a treat. You bring that. But from a starting perspective, you only have 3 starters that return. Nico Yamalava, Eugene Brooks, and Sam Yoon on the offensive line. Is that necessarily a bad thing? No, it is not. It isn't. Because, listen, you need the depth at offensive line because this offensive line has got to get better. From a defensive perspective, it's not just him. The DB room is going to be the more underrated part of this UCLA team. It's a reason why that despite all of the changes from this past season, Scooter Jackson, Cole Martin, Roderick Pleasant, all guys that started, or not that. Yeah. Guys that all started this past year in the backfield. They have that experience. Scooter Jackson had 2 picks this past year. And he is going to play a significant role in this defense. Then you look at the safety room. Malik Hartford is a veteran at strong safety. Was there with Ohio State when they went on the road to the national championship. You brought in Teo Johnson, who is a starter for Kyle Whittingham's defense. So he's been in a significant defense. Sammy Ogushinu, who I wish that he would have been on the roster, but didn't get a whole lot of playing time, decides to go to UCLA, was on the Butkus Award list this past year whenever he was at Oklahoma. So I am very excited to see him in a UCLA uniform. Had 28 tackles this past, or really 50 tackles. Still got some playing time, but you just didn't see the same playmaker that you were expecting and didn't really have the breakout year that you were expecting out of him early on, looking at this past season. So, listen, man, first year that Bob Chesney is in, he has such a very, very good roster. And he has a roster that you can get behind. He has a roster that he trusts. He has a roster that you obviously want to see grow and continue to see grow. Bob Chesney has been one of the more efficient recruiters in college football. He's done this for a while. Chesney's teams, from a defensive perspective, are always consistent. That early game against Cal is going to make a difference in that football game. So while we're on the topic of UCLA, that was number 1 of my teams that I think could potentially exceed expectations for 2026. My second team, we're going from each conference, so that's Big Ten out the way. Boom, done. My second team that I think can exceed expectations in 2026. From the SEC, I was back and forth with this one before the show even started. I was set on one team initially. And then I looked at the roster. And then I looked at the quarterback. And then I looked at Mississippi State. Who is our team there? Why did Mississippi State just intrigue me all of a sudden? Mississippi State's quarterback situation is a lot better than where Kentucky's is at. And it's no disrespect to Kenny Minchie, because I like Kenny Minchie. I think he's a really, really good quarterback. I think very highly of Minchie. I think he's done some really good things for the most part. I think he has a very high ceiling in Will Stein's offense. But Kamario Taylor is a difference maker, dude. Listen, we know the pressure that Jeff Lebby is under right now at Mississippi State. If they come out of this year with another disappointing record, whether they go 4-8 or 5-7 or whatever, if they have a similar season like they did last year, he's obviously going to be on the hot seat for 2027, if he isn't already. I don't know if they fire him now, but it's hard to win at Mississippi State nowadays because it doesn't feel like the resources and the investment into a program is there anymore. It's not like it was 10 or 15 years ago when NFL draft picks were being pumped out during the damn Mullen years. It's just not the same. So when you look at Mississippi State, they bring back 7 returning starters, really 8 if you include if you include Kamario Taylor, who started a handful of games in the last 3 years after Blake Shapen was, I don't know if he was benched or if he was hurt, but I think he was benched because of that. But Anthony Evans returns to the offense after a 800-yard receiving season. And you look at what they brought to you in the portal. You brought in Marquise Johnson, who I was surprised he wanted to go there, because I thought Marquise Johnson was going to be a guy that was just going to be a solid slot guy, number 2 option at Missouri. He was going to be the number 1 guy with Austin Simmons. Make no mistake about that. I was surprised that Marquise decided to even leave. It was really kind of a surprise to a lot of people, and now he ends up at Mississippi State, and now this offense looks really good. Much better than I thought. The running back room is deep once again. Fluff Bothwell is going to be a phenomenal back. I think he's one of the underrated stars of this team. Bothwell was the number 2 guy. I think he was, I think he was the number 2 guy behind Devon Booth. And yet, I think he led the team in he didn't lead the team in rushing, but man, there were a lot of times where you thought, man, how the hell is he not? He just made some big runs that you just saw, and he was just like, oh my gosh. This backfield was loaded this past year with Booth and Fluff Bothwell at the receiver position. So you added him. You look at the defensive side of the ball, 5 of your 11 starters return. 2 of you big boys in the middle return. Calvin Dinkins, who's 320 pounds, an absolute force. Trevion Williams, I thought, had some really good moments at defensive tackle / defensive end. I think he's going to be more of a defensive tackle this year. Zachary Tillman is the leader in the middle. I think he's one of your big-time linebackers. I think he's prime for an all-SEC season. And then you bring back 2 all-SEC DBs in Kelly Jones and Isaac Smith, 2 of the best in all of the SEC, 2 of the more underrated stars in the SEC. From a defensive perspective, they're going to be much better. I mean, they aren't going to be worse. I can promise you that, because Zach Arnett did it was surprising to me the fact that Zach Arnett wanted to come back to Mississippi State, was working as an analyst for Ole Miss and Florida State, returns to Mississippi State after being a defensive coordinator from 2020 to 2022, eventually becoming the head coach. But I thought that was a really weird divorce between him and Mississippi State in 2023. But I understand why there was so much frustration, because the offense just took a massive step back. They were not good. They had some really bad moments from that perspective. They just didn't. And it felt like a slap in the face to the late, great Mike Leach, who basically gave him the keys to the offensive playbook and the keys to having a successful offense. And they just fell flat on their face. So I can understand why fans were frustrated at that moment, but Arnett is a fantastic coordinator, man. He's a really, really good football player, and I think this defense once again will get back among the top half of the SEC. That's going to be a big difference for them as to how they can recover after last year. Again, and I put this out earlier, I think early in the month of July. In 3 games this past year, Mississippi State had a lead going into the fourth quarter, and they lost all 3 of those games. They were in position to win. The first one was Tennessee. When you went into the fourth quarter up, you shot yourself in the foot. You had 2 massive turnovers that lost you the football game. The fumble return that got you set up for the easy touchdown, you basically gave field position away. That lost you a lot of games last year. The Florida game, you're driving down the field, you're in field goal range, and you want to throw right across the middle to try to gain more yardage. But you have 2 all SEC essential. You basically have 2 of the best of the top rushers in the SEC, and you don't give them the football in the last 30 seconds of the game to give you an opportunity to win, which was mind-boggling to me. And then the Texas game where you blow a fourth quarter lead. Guys, you're talking about a 7 or 8 win team at the end of the day. I think that there is people will complain about the schedule. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. It's tougher than it looks. Guys, that 9th SEC game is going to play a role. Mississippi State is going to get an upset, whether it be at home against Bama, whether it be at home against or whether it be Missouri, Bama, at South Carolina, even at Minnesota, which I would not be surprised if they're not a favorite going into that one. I still believe that this is a Mississippi State team that can do some damage in the SEC. I would expect them to play spoiler when it comes to late season, trying to get themselves into a college football playoff. I think they may have Texas's number this year, despite the additions that Texas made. We may see some late season voodoo, to say the least. Maybe they go to Oxford and pull off the upset there. Who knows? This Mississippi State we're talking about. Seems like every year they always pull some voodoo, which is incredible to me. But Camario Taylor is going to play a big role in this because he's essentially going – I see a scenario where he ends up being what Lenore Sellers was for South Carolina in 2024. He wins them a lot of football games. He's such an athletic freak. And the way that the offense was run around him early on in the season, it was very wonky in the packages they gave him too. When they got later on in the year, the Ole Miss game I thought was better in the first half, and then they kind of went away from that. I would expect Camario Taylor to be what Camario Taylor was being recruited out of high school as. He's going to be a mobile guy that is going to throw on the run. Jeff Lebby has to adjust to that, and I think he will. And that's why I think that you're going to see a team like Mississippi State exceed expectations at the end of the day. My third team from the Big 12 Conference that I think will exceed expectations is Oklahoma State.
And that's nobody's real big surprise. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to run to the bathroom. Be right back. If I can hit the button that tells me I'm going to be right back. Okay. Trying to hit the loop button because I got to use the bathroom. All right. But all right. Do I have it? My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. We love technical difficulties on the show. Ain't never a good show without some technical difficulties. Am I back? Give me a thumbs up if I'm back. If you can hear me in the comments. Okay. We're good. All right. Back in a minute. Oklahoma State basically took North Texas's roster, and now we're looking at the same Oklahoma State team we saw in 2026, or the same North Texas team in 2026. So when you look at where they are as a whole, man, it's hard to deny the fact that you have a lot of teams vying for the Big 12 and as wide open as a conference that it feels like this year. Because initially it just seemed like it was going to be all Texas Tech. Brennan Sorsby comes in. They're the clear-cut favorite in the conference. And now that does not seem likely now. I think this is more wide open than we can ever imagine. Texas Tech not Texas Tech. Oklahoma State are the new kids on the block. They're coming off of a 1-11 season, and you think, how the hell can they get better from a 1-11 tenure? You want to know how? Eric Morris and the offensive genius that he is. Look at what he did with North Texas's offense. He brought Drew Mestabaker with him. He brought the elite rushing attack with him with Caleb Hawkins. He brought his number one receiver in Wyatt Young. There are a lot of key pieces that were added through the portal this season. Guys, Eric Morris is going to be my way too early for Big 12 Coach of the Year. Because I really believe that the changes that were made over the offseason, you have the number 8 overall transfer portal class in the country. You're basically bringing your entire roster to Stillwater, and you know what you did? You're basically looking at them and saying, hey, guess what? We're about to take over the Big 12. Maybe not now, but later. Maybe not now at the moment, But maybe within a year or two, we could be the new kids on the block at the moment. But, man, we're going to do some crazy things this year. You brought along Donovan Green as your primary tight end. Freaking nature, 6'4", 225. Phenomenal athlete. Dude knows how to run with the football and is a lot bigger in person than you think. I'm 6'2", and he's about my size too. He's a very, very strong kid. Really excited to see what he brings. You brought along the running back room, which I think will continue to get better. You brought in Ayo Adiyi. Trying to pronounce his name. Solid back from this past year, was the number 2 guy for JMU this past year behind Wayne Knight. This was a 1,000-yard back guy in 2023. So he is very familiar with this roster, was there with North Texas in 2023. I expect him to be the number 2 guy behind Caleb Hawkins, along with guys like Dennis Moody. You know, this was a deep running back room in the transfer portal. So it's going to be really interesting to see who is going to get the primary play-in time when it's all said and done. But obviously, everybody knows that Caleb Hawkins should be the number 1 guy at the end of the day. You know, there's just so much talent across the board that North Texas had this past year. Offensive line-wise is really good. Wyatt Young, when you talk about Miles Coleman, Terrence Lewis, the entire receiving core, the entire running back room, the entire quarterback room is officially moving from Denton to Stillwater, and I think it's going to pay dividends. Oklahoma State's schedule is a lot tougher than what you think. At Tulsa, which people may have Tulsa on upset alert for that game. I personally don't understand why. You get Oregon, who's the national championship favorite at home. At West Virginia, Morgantown is always tough to play at Houston, at Kansas State, at Jack Trice, and playing Iowa State. But I think you should come away with a win in that one. Texas Tech at home, at Arizona State, and then home against Kansas. This is a 7 or 8 win team. I will be in Stillwater for their homecoming game against Colorado. So I will get a better look at what that team looks like following that Houston game. Whenever I get out to Stillwater, really excited to get out there. I think it's going to be a really fun environment. I'm excited to see Boone Pickens back filled up like it was during the glory days of where that roster was. And make no mistake about it, man, this team is going to be really good. During the glory days of Mike Gundy. And look, Boone Pickens is going to be rocking. I'm excited for this year. I think Oklahoma State is going to do some pretty crazy things this year. And we're going to expect a massive year out of them. Mestamaker may be one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the Big 12. I have him right now at number 4, but don't be surprised if he ends up as my number 1 or 2 quarterback when it is all said and done this year. Maybe he's my number 2 behind Noah Fafita, depending on what Fafita does this season. But for now, Noah Fafita is number 1. I think I have Mestamaker at 3 or 4 at the current moment. And then our last team that I have that could do more damage at the end of the day. Artistically Incredible says, you're going to hit the stadium with the paddles. Brother, I don't know. So what's funny is, Artistically, they're trying to find me a ticket in the student section, even though I don't go to OSU. I'm from Baton Rouge, as we've discussed heavily on the show. But that would be cool. I'm not gonna lie. That would be that'd be interesting. I mean, I don't mind it. But I also here's another Big 12 stadium I'd like to go to. I wish I could have gone to it's not AT&T Stadium anymore, or not AT&T Jones AT&T Stadium anymore. What is it called? Galaxy Stadium. It's going to be called Galaxy Stadium now, which is stupid. But no, I wish I could have gone to Jones AT&T in the heyday when we were throwing tortillas on the field. Dude, Yormark's such an idiot, okay? The fact that basically Yormark kind of destroyed that is insane. Can they still do the tortilla toss? Let me see. Oh yeah, it was banned by it, which is stupid. Which is so dumb, okay? It's a tradition that's been done for what, 25 years or so? Like, how does it make any sense? And isn't it done before the game or after the game? It just don't make any sense to me, man. I wish I could have been there when they were throwing. Yeah, they stopped it, which is funny because I'm going to the freaking Colorado game. Brother. I cannot stand Dion right now, okay? I can't stand him as a coach right now. I love him as a man. Can't stand him as a coach. But you've all heard my Colorado rants before on if you follow me on X and if you follow us here on the Southern Sports. By the way, hurry up and hit that subscribe button. All right, last team that we're going to discuss for tonight that I think very well could exceed expectations this year is California. Heavy West Coast laden. I know that you told me last week was Colorado. I still don't believe you. It's not happening. Okay, here's the thing artistically. I have more confidence that Deion Sanders is going to be fired at the end of the year than I do seeing them as a dark horse. You will never see me ever say that Colorado is a dark horse. But I don't feel like bashing Deion anymore tonight. California brought in offensive coordinator Jordan Somerville, along with their alumni, Tasha Lupoy. Jaren Kiave Sangapuatale. I literally heard the translation of it yesterday, and I've been practicing it for the longest time, and it has been rather fun trying to pronounce it. But anyways, through the portal, I thought they had a strong portal class this year. Brought in Ian Strong, who was the number one guy from Rutgers this past season. Bringing in another 1,000-yard receiver in Chase Hendricks to add along to a strong transfer portal roster, a strong wide receiver group at the end of the day. You also return guys like Qualron Adams and Jordan King, who I expect to get significant playing time throughout the season. Adam Muhammad could potentially be one of the best backs in the ACC this year. JKS could be a finalist for the Heisman Trophy and a future number one pick. I know a lot of people have been very, very vocal about JKS, and man, I love Jaren Kiawe Sangapuatale. I think he's got a very bright future ahead of him, and I think that this offense belongs to him, and I think he's going to improve significantly as long as he is still the quarterback. The schedule obviously determines what happens with that first game against UCLA. If they beat UCLA at home in Berkeley, I think they're an 8 or 9 win team. They lose, could be another difficult stretch for them. But I do see Cal at the end of the day, maybe an 8 or 9 win team when it is all said and done. But that 3-game stretch where they have SMU on the road, at NC State and Carter Finley, and then at Scott Stadium against Virginia, that's a tough 3-game stretch that they got to go through. They can go 1-2 during that stretch. I think they're an 8-win team for sure. But if they go over 3, 7 wins at max. But a lot of production and a lot of young talent to build upon to prepare for 2027. But that's going to do it for us here tonight, guys. Make sure you all do us a favor. Hit the like, share, and subscribe button down below. Thank you all for tuning in once again to the Southern Sports Scene. Appreciate you. Always enjoyed chatting it up with you guys. Y'all have a great rest of the week. We will see you on Friday again next week, or really not next week, but the week of week 0. We will be transitioning to 3 days a week. That's the other big news with the Southern Sports Scene. Monday live show, 7:30. Wednesday live show, 7:30. Friday live show, 7:30. Gonna get it rocking and rolling. Excited to talk some ball with you guys. Y'all go hit the like, share, and subscribe button down below. Tell 5 friends to go on over to the Southern Sports Scene and subscribe for the best college football content of all 138 FBS teams around the globe. Excited to talk week 0 with you. Next week when we get to previews, y'all make sure to follow for more. Y'all have a good day. We will see you soon. Peace.